All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash podcast. Today, we're going to be doing it live for episode 506. We have some special guests on today, Chief Growth Officer Jonathan and Smart Contracts Lead Jean with LUKSO, talking about their upcoming Ethereum bridge and the opportunities that it is going to unlock. So this is going to be very fascinating to learn about. We have both of them on the show today. Jonathan, Jean, welcome, man. Welcome, guys. How you doing today?
Good, very good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having us too.
Pleasure's all mine, guys. To kick it off, I'm sure people would love to learn a little bit about each of you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your respective backgrounds, maybe how you guys also ended up in the Web3 space and eventually with LUKSO. Whoever wants to go first.
Sean, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm basically I've been leading the smart contract engineering at LUKSO for now more than 3 years and a half, almost 4 years. And I started learning about crypto and Web3 back in summer 2018. And as many people in the space, I got very interested by the tech and down the rabbit hole of understanding how it works. And got really interested, especially with smart contract. And since I was already a full stack developer, building e-commerce websites, I got more into that field. So yeah, interesting in anything around emerging tech in general.
Awesome. Jonathan, what about you?
Yeah. So at LUKSO, I lead ecosystem growth based out of what is today a pretty sunny London for once. Prior to entering the space, I worked primarily in private equity, looking at software companies, Botox companies, theme parks even. And then in 2021, discovered LUKSO and really resonated with the team's vision around creating a dedicated network for use cases around social culture and mainstream consumers. My father was a lifelong kind of like journalist and artist. Mother worked in fashion for a number of years, so creatives in their own right, and so there was quite a bit of alignment and things just clicked. It's been extremely kind of interesting seeing how far ahead of the curve the founders were in thinking through what the problems are in the space, how it's holding it back, and what are some of the solutions to it. So just a bit of background there.
Awesome. And Jonathan, would also love to kind of get your take on LUKSO and what maybe the core mission is, some of the key problems that it's aiming to solve. What can you kind of tell us about what direction LUKSO is going?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of the problem that we're seeing in the internet today is it's almost twofold, right? In Web 2, as we all experience, our online presence is scattered all over the internet, in these siloed platforms where they're not interoperable. We're seeing some stagnation in the the innovation of features, unfair monetization, and then worse yet, starting to see some censorship and deplatforming. And then great, now we have Web3, right? But the reality is it doesn't get any better, right? The UX is still, very clunky. The core building blocks that make up, your Web3 account is very inflexible. Not a lot of good, options to manage it. And which is why, in the space today, we still see, the main use case is primarily like financial, right? The lasting one, at least. And so at LUKSO, what the team has done is created, we want these type of use cases that are more social and related to culture, things that people are inherently interested in, right? You look at your phone, you scroll through your app list. Is it really the banking applications that appeal to us most and which we use most? No, it's all the ones that help us communicate and bring people with, shared shared interest together in one place, right? And so the team has really gone back to the drawing board, seeing some of the issues that we're seeing in Web 2 and Web 3, and have spent a good number of years reimagining what an account should look like, and what are the core building blocks or standards within the blockchain space that's missing in a lot of these networks, that ultimately is going to help developers be able to build these applications on top of, and really let the mainstream use cases and social use cases flourish over time. So yeah. I mean, just so it's a little bit more, I can share my screen here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to do a demo real quick?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick demo, just so your audience and people tuning in can get a feel of it, right? And so I mean, we've all seen this page. It's it's Etherscan. You've got your MetaMask account, and this is really your identity, or your.
Can you share the page real quick?
Yep. The page.
Yeah, and then I can put it up on the screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing screen yet, I guess, eh? Okay.
There you go.
It's good now? Ah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is Etherscan, right? This is the state of blockchain today, where, you as a person interacting on chain, on blockchain is nothing but a number, right? How you're reflected in blockchain today is, really a bunch of ones and zeros that no one understands. The assets you hold, the transfers you're making, and the swaps you're doing, right? And so how we're really looking to change that is redefining, accounts to be a profile, right? We don't call them wallets anymore, although you can do anything that a wallet can do, but it's about creating a hospitable place for your average user, your creator, a company, a DAO, to really express who they really are, right? Because we're really the culmination, or our identity is the culmination of all of our interests, our hobbies, the organizations we want to get involved with, and what we do on the internet, right? And so LUKSO is really redefining that to make it a lot more human readable, a lot more social, so that you can express yourself in the way that you want, right? Show a couple profiles here that are extremely beautiful, on LUKSO. And so yeah, so as you can see, it's a much more it's a much more curated experience, right? And the beauty of it is, what we're doing is taking this Web 2.5 approach, where you can pull in anything you want in Web 2, right? You can pull in full-on websites. You can pull in any of your YouTube videos, your SoundCloud playlists as a creator, really anything that you want, right? To aggregate all of it into one place. And within the grid, which is what you see here, the Web3 part of it comes from the fact that now developers can build mini applications, right? So, for example, in this profile that I was showing before, you could have creator monetization modules, or donation tools, or subscription management tools, or even plain old DeFi as well, but on steroids. So there's quite a few things that are now possible now, and so that's on the profile front of it, right? Where you have this fully decentralized profile. You can bring it with you from application to application, website to website. You're acting on chain with that persistence and consistency from place to place. So if I were to go to another application, such as or another application on the chain, I can look up myself, and you'd still see, that same identity and reputation that you've built up. All your followers follow you. If they wanted to pull in all the Web 2, Web 3 stuff that you saw here, the grid, they could if they wanted to. Any website now, right? And that's where standards on blockchain, hard for people to conceptualize, right? But that's where all these things play in, right? Every single piece of what you see here is not on some private server. It's directly kind of built into your profile where it follows you from website to application. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I love the seamlessness of it too. It really does have that kind of, web 2.5 vibe almost. And the social aspect really is there too, being able to like search up a name and everything pops up almost like it's a full profile of the individual. I think that's, a really good way to make it very simple and easy to use for a lot of people, because Web3 has always been, very complicated. So this is fantastic.
Totally. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be even Web3 at all. Although, it could be Web2 as well. Like you think of yourself as a creator, or even, as a business, there's tons of, mini applications you could bring in. Like one of those integrations is Elfsight, where you could pull in all of your social media, into these frames. You could have, pull in your Google reviews, or, Amazon reviews, or, all types of stuff. And so, you're kind of bringing in people into an experience that they're familiar with, where they can check you out, understand what you're doing, all in one place, and then slowly discover, what Web3 has to offer over time.
Interesting. What is the breadth of what those mini applications, as you put it, could be on LUKSO, or that could be integrated with LUKSO? Like, what do those kind of look like in general, like in terms of the variety of them?
Yeah, I mean, so the grid, which is what you saw, where people could build mini applications, we're really seeing, the early seeds of what could be built, especially through, this hackathon / kind of grants program that we launched in February. So in a short 2 months, we're kind of seeing these mini explosions of people building pretty cool things. We're seeing, people build, a full kind of like e-commerce shop right into your grid, where you can pay on chain, full back end kind of order management system. So, people can sell swag, or, any in real life items in. We're seeing, subscription tools, token gated kind of content widgets. A lot of things on the creative side, like, decentralized, messaging kind of applications as well. And so if you think about like even something like a DAO nowadays, you could have a DAO universal profile, right? At the highest level, it's controlled by multiple universal profiles, which represents its members, different levels of permission. One person can transfer funds, the other person can only update a certain piece of metadata. And then within that grid system, you've got all your proposals there, a list of all the members of the DAO with an, on-chain name and a face to it, token gated kind of like, messaging system, on-chain voting. And this scales out really easily to, anyone who has a company, or creates an event that's represented by a universal profile, right? And so there's a lot of very, very cool things that we're starting to see, and we're pretty early on. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like what the tech team has created is creating the right kind of flywheels that we need within Web3, but from a social perspective. And then, as I'm sure we'll speak about later, now it's about having the financial ones, and then where the magic really happens is when you have both kind of intermingling over time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing that innovation at the social level and from a creative perspective as well. So, congrats on that. That's looking really, really good. I want to jump to the juicy piece of news that you guys have today with the upcoming Ethereum bridge. I'm sure that's something people will be very excited to learn about as well. Maybe both of you can touch on this, Jonathan, if you want to go first. But what can you tell us about the Ethereum LUKSO bridge in terms of what potential it's going to unlock for the ecosystem, and then how it's going to kind of go about doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, the team has really held back on, and really enabling DeFi within the ecosystem for as long as we could. Just to be able to work in a more quiet space, really develop on the tooling and the social side of things. But as the features start rolling out, the pieces of the tech start coming together, and the flow of it starts to make sense to start enabling it. Yeah, pretty excited about it, because any network needs that core economic kind of infrastructure for the flywheels really to run. So yeah, it's going to enable a lot of things, right? Because even for something like DeFi within LUKSO, there's a lot of things that are possible now on LUKSO that just weren't on any EVM chain before, right? So you can imagine if you've got a grid, the DEX could have a widget. Actually, it's actually possible, and exists on Ethereum. Exists on LUKSO right now, where the DEX could have a widget where people coming to the profile can start swapping directly on someone's profile, right? And then automatically, that profile owner would get a percentage of the protocol fees, right? Someone recently built, an NFT kind of widget, NFT buying widget, where you could choose, one of your 100 assets that you own on the profile, have that asset show as a widget, and then someone could just go directly onto your profile, purchase it. And then they took it a step further, because now we've got the right standards where other people can now clone that widget to their profile. And then if the sale happens on their profile, they got a cut of the protocol fees. And so all these really cool kind of mechanisms, which allow people, even without assets, to participate and to be able to monetize in some way, and and speed up that velocity of assets being traded. But you could scale this out to music listens, blog post reads. There's a lot of really cool things, but yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty exciting. Jean, did you also want to touch on this a little bit? Maybe some of the, at a high level, some of the core purpose of the Ethereum bridge too?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is basically different aspects to the bridge that you can think of. It's gonna bring value to the ecosystem. First of all, if there will be the wrapped version of stablecoins on LUKSO, which is relevant, because you will have, like, on the ecosystem, tokens that have actual pegged value to certain fiat currencies, and tokens that can be used as a more traditional payment method. So it's interesting, for instance, for things like if any service or any application running on the chain want to charge fees, or give subscription models where they get paid in, let's say, USDC, or or any of these kind of fiat based stablecoin. So yeah, it's basically bringing in tokens that have really more monetary value, because right now there is LUKS, the native currency, but not everyone is able to access LUKS. It's more like steps to get into the flow. And yeah, there will be like things like stable coins. There will be also native tokens from other chains, and there will also be the possibility to go the other way around. It's a two-way bridge. It's not only Ethereum to LUKSO, it's also LUKSO to Ethereum. So it will be interesting because then you can bridge leaks, for instance, the native currency from LUKSO onto Ethereum, and for people who are not able to access leaks to purchase it, they will be able to swap it on Uniswap if they have like any token or ETH. If they have ETH, USDC, USDT, or they can then swap that for wrapped leaks on Uniswap and then bridge back wrapped leaks to leaks on LUKSO. So that's another way to see it. You will also have the ability to bridge LSP7 tokens that were created on LUKSO. We have like some certain communities with some community tokens and meme coins like Chill or Fabs or like Pepito, these meme coins. Then they can expand their reach and their audience to go then to Ethereum. Because like in Web3, a lot of communities around the token and meme coin want to like spread the words out. So it's also an interesting way for like these very degen community on LUKSO to expand, like to go on Ethereum or any potential of a chain and say, hey, look at our community. This is our wrapped version of our token, but we are from LUKSO originally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then as a result, it's going to create all of these interesting social use case around any form of DeFi application. So you will be able to do things like lending, borrowing, but add more like financial incentive aspects to it. A good example, for instance, is like if you're a KOL or if you have like your own brand, like here, like a BlockHash, you can then create like certain form of incentive schemes to build up your audience. You can have your grid on your you can have like your universal profile for your brand for BlockHash, and you can configure your UP that if someone follows you, then you're gonna tip them stable coins. So let's say the first 500 followers, I'm gonna tip them USDC or like whatever stable coin will be available, whatever token that has some financial value. It can be anything, but yeah, you will be able to build all of these interesting financial incentive and like financial application, but that are more social oriented, that have this more interesting social aspect to it. And in fact, just as a closing point, it's interesting because often in crypto we talk about a bridge between chain. The reality is that it's actually routes at the technical level, and it's represent more what it is, because it's not a one single digital bridge for like where all these tokens go from whichever chain go in and out. It's actually different routes where each route represent basically a route where like a specific asset goes in and out. To represent it like visually, you can think really of like two islands. You have one island which is Ethereum, one island is LUKSO, and you could reach one island of the other through different way of transport. You could use a boat, you could use like a physical bridge if there's one, and by car, or you could use like a plane. And each of these three transport method is basically a route for like different tokens to be able to cross over. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea.
Yeah, and piggybacking off that point, a lot of people have created tokens on Ethereum, and they're almost craving for the ability to add more kind of use cases to it, right? And what's possible now is if you have a token on Ethereum and you wanted to actually engage your your audience in a more kind of automated on-chain way, bridge that over to LUKSO, have that universal profile. And because of the standards, really cool things can happen now, right? The moment, like you said, the moment someone follows you, you could send a token out, right? The moment you receive a token, because of the standards, you can automatically route it to something else. Stake a third of it, on some staking platform. Take the other third, send it directly to your wife because you don't want to get too degen and lose all your money. And then the other third into a charity DAO, which then they do some stuff with it, right? So it's really the ability to use it in a social and financial way at the same time.
I think on this side also is that a lot of people have already assets on Ethereum, and they want to acquire other assets. Maybe that could be on LUKSO. They want to acquire leaks, or they want to buy certain piece of art, or they want to to use certain services. But they can't really, because they have to acquire leaks, and it's always like I think we all know we have all experienced like the culprit that it is to go through buying crypto. You have to do KYC, you have to open an account in an exchange, and it's another account that you maintain. It's always very complex and complicated. And with more like a token being bridged from Ethereum to LUKSO, you basically change that the other way around. If you want to acquire certain token, then you can just bring in your stable coin on LUKSO as a wrap, and you just swap them, or you can then use this money that is idle and provide liquidity in like any form of lending or borrowing pool. If you will have there's going to be some liquid staking token on LUKSO, you can then borrow the liquid staking and use as a collateral, let's say USDC, and then you basically earn rewards on the LUKSO, on staking rewards, while still have basically a liquid staking token that is pegged by that you have borrowed using a collateral that you had, and otherwise if you wouldn't have that, the step would have had been to go to an exchange, open your account, do the KYC, buy leaks, put that into your wallet, and then go to the app to then stake and then mint the liquid staking token. So it's gonna really there's so many ways that is going to be unlocking different pathway for accessing services that it's going to be very interesting. This is one of them I was mentioning.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like I'm going to have to set up a universal profile for BlockHash the way you guys are explaining it. It would be a really good fit for the show, I think. And I love how, you guys make it so easy for value to flow between Ethereum and LUKSO. There's so many people that have started projects and tokens and that are locked into the Ethereum ecosystem essentially, and it's harder for them, to bring that value to other ecosystems. And I think what you guys are doing with LUKSO makes it much easier for them to do that with the bridge, and definitely opens up a lot of opportunities. So really like what you guys are doing there. I had another question. You probably answered this a little bit earlier, Jonathan, but I was curious if there was a reason maybe that you guys felt inclined to do the bridge now versus later. Were you guys trying to time it, or was it just a work in progress? And then an addendum to that question as well. Do you imagine other networks would also be using a bridge with LUKSO in the future? Is there potential to integrate and collaborate there?
Yeah, there's always honestly, it becomes a little bit distracting when you bring speculation into a chain too early on, especially with what's possible, and certain aspects of enabling DeFi and for funds to get bridged over needed to be worked out, right? So for example, if you didn't want to use universal profiles from the get-go, you can use MetaMask or Zerion wallet, on the LUKSO chain, right? But prior to some of the upgrades to the interface and being able to detect EOAs, those were blockers at a certain point. And so half of it was for DeFi to flourish, you have to have these pieces built out, and then half of it was we really wanted this for all the builders within the ecosystem to be solely focused on really thinking and having the mind share towards these kind of social use cases, which we're starting to see pop up over the last 2 months. And so now I think is the right time, because the space is very money driven, and so if DeFi was kicked off right at the beginning, a lot of that mind share, it doesn't allow the social aspect to, because it's a newer thing. If you think about it, like LUKSO is effectively, we're not creating, a social media D app, right? These are mini applications that could be built by anyone, right? Where traditionally in Web 2, you've got one team building out every single primitive that makes up a social media platform. Whereas on LUKSO, it's the reverse, right? Everyone's got the same single source of truth in terms of every single user or a company or event or what have you. And then they're really building the interfaces or those primitives. So you're kind of crowdsourcing or crowd development all these pieces that make up what we call social media, which can span into e-commerce and a lot of real world assets and a lot of different things, right? So yeah, it's the right time. Yeah. And another use case for DeFi is like right now in the old world, you've got to over collateralize everything. Why do you have to over collateralize everything? It's because there's no identity on chain. You don't have a persistent, account or profile that's manageable, where the moment you lose your private key, there's no going back. It's a throwaway account now, right? With universal profiles, it's very flexible in how you can manage it. Expose your private key, revoke permissions, give another private key to your profile. So now you have a long-lasting account, which you could build, reputation on. You have followers, you've got your audience, you've got proof of work from contributing to DAOs on chain, etc., where you actually care about the account, and it could be your almost like a your credit score in a way to unlock like uncollateralized lending, right? That's kind of the holy grail of DeFi, but it's not going to happen without the social aspect of it, or the identity. Identity seems too heavy, but the social aspect of it, right? You look at Facebook, they didn't set out to be, hey, we're going to be this identity login layer. It was first, an application where is this person hot or not? It's much more playful. And then over time, as people are interacting and using the account in a social, in a fun way, it actually it reached that level of importance where you're using it as a login now, right? You're using it as your identity to all these different other platforms, but then that could be revoked. And so the whole point of this is to be able to traverse even outside of Web3 in the broader internet with something that's long lasting, and that's easier to manage, much more interoperable, to really take things to the next level.
Yeah, and I think that's the right mindset to have, right? A lot of these things are very evolutionary, and they start out with plan A, and then they end up going with plan B, C, D, E, and then they keep evolving over time. Like Ethereum is a good example of that too. As a chain, NFTs and having some tokens, crypto kitties and crypto punks, it had very humble beginnings. under Vitalik and his vision, and that's evolved tremendously over time, and it's a completely different chain than it was years ago. And that's true for, I think, in my opinion, any project. Facebook is a good example of that. So it's good to have an open vision mindset, where it can take, where the community can kind of drive it over time, and what can be developed out of that in terms of these many applications and what gets developed.
We just need the right pieces now, right? Because on Ethereum, they've progressed a lot, and that's only with 2, maybe 3 standards that have been pretty widely adopted. Imagine when you have a set of 28, right? Like within the EVM space, it's almost like what they've decided on, and which has created so much efficiency, with how applications are being built. It was only defining like, hey, we've got roads, we're going to drive on the right side of the road, and we've got street lights, right? But then what about the rule of law? What about your medical system? What about all these other pieces that need to be in place, to allow for an economy or a country to really flourish? These are the pieces that are really missing, right? So I mean, these things are a little bit more complicated under the hood, but I would almost see LUKSO as, if you were an Android user, Android's a really, really good standalone device, very powerful. But there's something about stepping into the Apple ecosystem where things just work together. The metadata flows much more easily, right? Like I can copy, a sentence from my phone and paste it onto my laptop. Like that's the analogy for LUKSO, where the accounts, the tokens, the NFTs, the applications, they just work a lot more seamlessly under the hood. So yeah,
I love it. That's a good way to put it. Have you guys been working on or developing anything in particular over the last few weeks, more than anything else, or has that mostly been on the bridge? Or just kind of curious what the MO is behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I will be actually happy to, if time allows, to demo a bit and show the latest thing we worked on the bridge. Let me see. How do I share screen?
Yeah, just go to present at the bottom and then click share screen. You should be able to pull it up.
Okay. By the way, is my mic audio quality good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know between two.
It's crispy.
Okay, nice. Can you see the UI now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so in regards of what we have been currently working on, so it has been mainly around 2 things. First is the UI of the bridge, which, for those who have seen our latest updates on Twitter, it was not as crispy and branded. So yeah, because everything around LUKSO at the universal everything is really about the user experience, make everything very smooth. So we have started to rebrand the UI, and we are planning to do a full-on end-to-end testing internally. And the second part is really around the security and the governance of all the contract and the whole architecture behind the scene. Because I'm always fascinated when I look at work on the tech side. When you look at Web3 application, it looks always like very sharp and nice and the fun scene, which it should for the user. It should be seamlessly, but behind the scene, it's a lot of things going on. Like a bridge transaction flow is something very complex. It goes from one user to a contract, and then there is like a hyperlane, the tech stack we use, and there is we dispatch the messages between chain, and we have a hashi, which is the zero knowledge client that verifies everything behind the scene without disclosing the data. But yeah, I will pass all of these details. So yeah, I can basically do a quick demo. Let me just connect my wallet. So yeah, so first of all, you can use I will use my ledger, because usually people hold funds more securely on Ledger. I just need to unlock it. Okay. Yeah. So this is the UI. You will be able to select the chain. So here we use Gnosis for testing purpose, because the zero knowledge client that we use to verify the messages across chain supports only mainnet, and testing on Ethereum, although the price went down, it's a bit expensive. We cannot spend $100 times 10 on each transaction. So yeah, so we use Gnosis for now as testing purposes. So yeah, you will see the tokens appearing in the UI. You will see how much you have. Let's say I want to bridge 500, and you will be able to do things like transferring to the same address as you, or you will be able to paste an address, or you could also just you could just type the name of a UP that you want directly and get its address. Yeah, I created this UP earlier for the sake of the demo. And yeah, so yeah, the way it will work basically is that you will validate the transaction. So you will have everything displayed nicely. So yeah, we're still working on the UI so that it's less, less hex number and the random data displayed, and more user friendly. And yeah, you will have the pop-up here. Let me see. I will confirm. Yeah, so I'm just showing on UI. I'm just using my ledger here. So you will be able to use your ledger to transfer to any address. You can transfer to your same address, or you can transfer to another address. And here, I'm transferring it to this universal profile. So you will be even able to directly, if you think about it. So this is the second actual transaction for bridging.
What are some of the wallet options that you can use?
That's a great question. So far there is obviously MetaMask. There will be there will be MetaMask, Zerion wallet, Coinbase wallet, and I think
Trust Wallet's also coming on.
And Trust Wallet, yeah,
very soon. So
yeah, actually, if we disconnect and we reconnect, you will see the option. Yeah, Zerion, Coinbase, Ledger, I haven't tried, and yeah, there is Wallet Connect as well, and MetaMask. Yeah. And yeah, and basically you will be able to see so yeah, once you have your wallet connected, you will be able to see the history of all the bridge transaction, and we're hopefully working on a bit better UI. But here, if you say you paste a message ID, you will see this is the Hyperlane Explorer. You see it's processing the transaction. So like on the source chain, it has been completed. And yeah, and actually on the destination chain, it has also been completed. And if I go on my UP here, normally it should appear in a couple of minutes. Let's see. Yeah, it should appear in like, yeah, you see it's just appeared. Yeah, so like if you have a token then that just appeared here. Yeah, and it's going to be really great because I have this UP connected here. You will be able to transfer it. You will even be here. I'm using a universal profile, but you will be able to use also you will be able to bridge any token from Ethereum or any stable coin. So like either and then like bridge to an EOA, because let's say you want to transfer a lot of funds and you are more comfortable holding them still on LUKSO into a hardware wallet like a Ledger. you will be able to connect to MetaMask and have your ledger connected to MetaMask, and then go to universaleverything.io and handle the token. So yeah, you will be able to then, basically use UE to transfer these bridge assets everywhere. Yeah, and I think it's a very cool flow that we are able to also bridge directly to any other address on the destination chain. Because if you think about it, if you have like stable coins on Ethereum, and let's say if you have like for instance a liquidity pool on LUKSO, and you want to provide liquidity to this liquidity pool, you don't have to bridge to another address on LUKSO and then use this address and connect to any other UI. And you can literally put the address of the liquidity pool that you have to interact with, and send money to it. You will have to see how you could make it work, but technically with a hyperlane stack, because you provide a different address on the destination chain, you could do that. And I think that's really cool. That is a nice feature on this end. And I will show as well the other way around. You will be able to connect to the bridge as well. Like, let's say if you have basically you want either to bridge back, or you want to bridge, let's say, leaks to Ethereum, to wrap leaks, or like some meme coins, if there will be route available. You will be able to do that. So yeah, here I've connected my UP that I created earlier. Yeah, you can see I have 500 token here, and yeah, and you can basically connect the wallet. You can connect the wallet, the UP browser extension, which is a wallet as well, as you can see. And yeah, you can paste the address, and you will see it's just going to tell you all the detail, and it's gonna pop up your browser extension, and you send a bit here. The reason we are sending a bit of leaks, it's because you always need to send a bit of money to fund the transaction on the destination chain. It's a very small, so usually like it's the equivalent of it's an amount equivalent in fiat to pay for the gas on the destination chain. So it's usually relatively small. Here you see it's just 25, 26 cents. And yeah, you just do the transaction, and you can bridge back to the chain, to the here I'm bridging back to Tokenosis, and same you can see in the Explorer of Hyperlane how it's being processed, and yeah, that's basically the whole user flow. I mean, I usually prefer to show now example like how it's going to work rather than describing it, because like people like often get their head around how it's going to work, and or think of it. It's the problem with Web3 is that you always have to go through. Sometimes you have to go through a lot of steps really to get the things that you want, and showing it on screen give you a better picture. I don't know why it's not picking up here, but it's probably processing it.
Yeah, I like the demos, and I think a lot of people do too. Web3 can oftentimes be very complicated, especially if you're a Web2-ish person and you're trying to understand the space for the first time, and you have to go through all these steps and connect this and bridge that and send that, and you don't have kind of like a visualized concept of how to do it. It can be very complicated. So I like these demos because it walks through the steps, and I think for a lot of people, it makes it very easy to comprehend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you think about like the user journey of how, you know, people interact with like applications and DeFi, it's oftentimes opening up like 3-4 tabs, you know, across
Yeah.
different websites and working all that out. But, you know, all of these things could exist as a widget, really, all in one place,
Mhm.
you know, with the instructions on the side and everything. So
Yep.
yeah, the discoverability and the shareability of everything is it's gonna be a lot better, which is nice.
I think it's safer that way too, right? A bit more secure if you could do it all as a widget. I've had so many issues just clicking on the wrong URL or, you know, searching something on Google and going to the wrong place and not working the way I intend. So yeah, I think any way to also kind of condense that down into something, you know, is also really good.
Yeah. I think you know, like Web3 is very it's very technical, and I noticed like the more you describe, the more people ask a question. While, you know, like when you show how the whole flow work, you get more insight on how the user can react, and if the way the UI and the application is built is relevant. And sometimes you get very good feedback, like someone asking, "Oh, would you be able to do this or that, or how can you do you know, like how can then I use this on this protocol?" And you know, it gives you like a very more practical path to work on, and yeah, and it's always very interesting. Yeah, I think it's this one. But yeah, anyway, taking a bit of time here. But yeah, and the interesting thing I forgot to mention is that I will cover it like very briefly. But Hashi is it's the name that also often comes up when you talk about the LUKSO Ethereum bridge. We all used to call it the Hashi bridge. I tend to prefer the term the LUKSO Ethereum bridge because it's the bridge between these two chains. Hashi is basically a component of chain, which is which also has a part on chain, in which is going to verify that the transaction originated from either Ethereum or LUKSO, and that they are legitimate. And what Hashi also does is that it's going to provide the proof on the destination chain that the transaction occur. So you will have like basically on the destination chain the trace of a source chain, because like between chain, you know, like when you're on LUKSO, you have no way to get any information about the Gnosis chain or like the Ethereum chain or any chain that the transaction will come from. So this is what is very interesting with Hashi, is that it's going to give you information about the source chain on the destination chain. So to prove that this transaction between both chains occurred, but because it's a zero knowledge proof technology, it's going to give you the proof of the transaction and the message was dispatched between the chain without actually revealing any data from the transaction. So for instance, you will be able to say on LUKSO, okay, thanks to Hashi, you will be able to say, okay, during this period of time, let's say if you have to do things like audit trail, this account or this entity bridged X amount of assets through 5 transactions, 5 cross-chain transaction, and you will have a cross-chain transaction stored, in fact, in
It's 15 hours.
One of these contracts. It's very complicated, like in terms of architecture, but I just forget about the diagram. But you will be able to say, okay, this organization did 5 transactions over the course of this month, and but you without revealing actually the detail of the transaction. So it's very like privacy preserving. You will be able to say that this transaction occurred without revealing the data. And the last bit is what is very interesting that I'm very excited about is that Hashi as a security module will also be open and available for anyone to use it to do cross-chain transaction from and to LUKSO for anything. So if someone wants to create a new route to bridge token, or if someone wants to create a route just to bridge messages, because a bridge is not a bridge between chain is not necessarily about a token. You can pass data between chains. Like for instance, if this chain needs information about the state of what happened on LUKSO, on chain you have no way to do that. But with Hashi, you will be able to do that in a zero knowledge way. Yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense. A bit of the ZK part is very complex, but it's a ZK technology, and within a bridge especially, it's very interesting. I'm really excited to see if any protocol will use them and how. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love it, and I appreciate the walkthrough under the hood here of how it works as well. I'm sure a lot of developers out there will find that very fascinating too. We'll need to bring the episode to a conclusion here in a few minutes, but before we do, would like to ask you guys also what maybe the horizon kind of looks like here for LUKSO. Any important milestones that might be coming up that you think are important for the community to be aware of. It could be in relation to the upcoming bridge. It could be any other topic that also may be relevant or even completely different, but what's kind of on the horizon for you guys that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the bridge is really just the start, right? Because, it's going to usher in more liquidity. We've already got protocols, on the DeFi side of things, building out the infrastructure on LUKSO so that we can, enable these flywheels within the ecosystem. And then also we're pairing that with the approach of also getting the native token out to other ecosystems that they might feel more comfortable with, right? So it's really a two-prong approach. That's on the financial side. Like on the product side, I mean, not sure there's quite a few things on the roadmap, which is going to make it really interesting and empower, the flywheels, which I'm pretty excited about, as those get rolled out. Definitely, we've been under the radar for, a long time, heads down kind of building. And so, excited with the, with some of the plans around, the bridge in terms of, getting the network out there to devs, to users, and onboarding creators with things that are built out now, by the community and also the core team. So, yeah, definitely going to be exciting times. And hopefully we can, over time, get out of these cycles, right, and create real use cases that persist beyond that and are resilient at the end of the day and are actually useful beyond speculation.
Excellent. And then where can people go to learn more about LUKSO if they want to find the community, if they want to dive into documentation, maybe as a developer? Where would you send people if they want to kind of get some of those resources and access your guys' people?
Yeah, it would be LUKSO.network. You'll find everything there. If you want to find the docs, just go to developers and then you'll see. Yeah, that'll funnel you through. And then for any updates, yeah, definitely LUKSO_IO. Also a good follow is our founder, Findora. But yeah, go to LUKSO_IO and yeah, you'll see all the updates there and the things coming out over time. So
awesome.
Yep.
Jonathan, Jean, thank you guys so much today. This has been a really good conversation. Learned a lot about what you guys are working on at LUKSO, also with the LUKSO Ethereum bridge. I think that's a really cool innovation as well. So keep up all the great work, guys. Let me know as things continue to grow and develop out, and as there's new updates, and maybe we can set up a part 2 live stream later on this year as more comes out.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll talk soon.
Thank
Yeah.
you.